Hi, Leah. Look at you in our AccuQuilt studio.
Yeah. Come hang out.
Look at all that stuff. All you Halloween peoples, there's a project in the making.
Okay, so a couple Wednesdays ago we talked scan and cut as one way of cutting fabric without using your rotary cutter and your scissors.
Carpal tunnel and all that.
Really a good way to cut really odd shapes and kind of one-offs for things like applique, or if you're trying to cut with vinyl or some of the other weirder things out there. If you just like to sew half square triangles for days and your scrap bins are exploding, maybe an AccuQuilt is a better setup for you.
Yeah, we've every now and then in our programs we've brought in a couple dies, like we brought in the die for the rag quilt and that. But some people might have been wondering, what the heck is that they're talking about?
So when you get an AccuQuilt, there's kind of different sizes of AccuQuilt cutters. And right now the one up on the table here is the Go Big Electric. So no hand cranking.
Yeah, so because for some people that's even still a problem.
Yeah.
So this little bugger's electric. You just push a button.
Yeah. And then there's like a hand crank version of the big one. And we don't have a mini, like a baby size at the moment.
No.
We haven't done an AccuQuilt order super recently.
Yeah, so if any of you are AccuQuilt fans, we can get you just about anything you need. We've got so many dies and stuff in the store. But yeah, like Leah's saying, AccuQuilt is for people who want to make a gazillion of the same pieces. So if you want to do, say, an I Spy quilt, and you want to use small squares, like we have square cutters. So this one over here it says cuts one shape. What you see on the front here is the actual size. It actually will cut for you 10 by 10s, which, as we know, is layer cake. Sometimes there's, like Sarah Vedler did some dies, and they coordinate with embroidery cards that she has. And then there's other simple blocks. So if you like that block and you want to make that quilt, and you perhaps might make it a few times, you'd buy that die. If you love Christmas, there's Christmas dies, and we looked at Halloween and fall. AccuQuilt is for somebody who wants to make a lot. So there's another Sarah Vedler die, and it matches an embroidery design. Then Adidas Sitar, pardon me. She's a lovely lady with a wicked sense of humor. She had a quilt with beautiful umbrellas on it, and if you're going to make a lot of them and cutting isn't your thing anymore, or there's, arthritis issues, carpal tunnel issues, any of the cutting things, digital cutters, Scan and Cut, or AccuQuilt will help. And it's actually AccuQuilt in the store. And then this one cuts 6 little squares at once. 2-inch squares. 1.5 inch finished. So, and see this one? They include free patterns to help you get started with the designs. So, I love them.
You want to watch it go?
Okay.
It is called a go.
It's a go.
So if you want to just use part of a die, because there's 2 different shapes or 2 different sizes, get your fabric covering this. I have 4 layers right now. That piece just folded in half. I'm going to cover that on top of the die. So there's a little blade in here.
Yeah, so a die.
Foam.
This is a foamy background. And then in where they change here, there's a sharp little blade. And it's important that you know how to use your goes properly, because you don't want to damage the die. Once you've damaged a die, it's a pain in the butt forever.
Yeah. And then you put the protective layer over top.
Yeah, so that's kind of a heavy, feels like a plastic cutting mat, like you buy for your kitchen, but it protects in here's a pressure system, so it's going to squeeze the fabric onto the cutter.
Ready?
Okay, I'm scared, but you go ahead.
I've never run the electric one. I've just done the hand crank one upstairs.
Yeah, we have a super big one upstairs. Oh, dang, look at you working so hard. Do I pay you for this?
Yeah.
Dang. I'm a nice person.
So, peel that layer off.
Hey, those are pretty jiffy.
Yeah.
No.
So 8 little half square triangles out of
Right, so those
4
are,
layers of fabric with the 2 pieces there.
so you can take that one, this one, and the nice thing is it has trimmed.
The weird
Yeah,
corners.
you can use small dies in the big machines, but you can't go the other way. So look at that. Perfect match. And you can kind of screw around. So the this one you would sew from point to point, and the corners are pre-trimmed, and it's so easy to see where your 1/4 inch is going to be. And then when you're finished and you pop that open, it's going to be perfect.
That was fun.
Yeah, you don't want to push down on a die with your fingers. You can actually cut yourself. And then you could put fusible on your fabric. I don't think we weren't smart enough to bring down pre-fused fabric, but you know, somebody ahead of us was playing. These pieces, we can do raw edge, stitch in a 1/4 inch. We can use 505 to put these down, or we could have used fusible on the back. So there's that. And you don't have to cut all of that, like Leah said. You can just put fabric over the place that you want to cut, because we probably don't want green leaves and stems and a green flower. Right?
Yeah.
And so, oh, look, some pretty purple flowers. Wonder what Dawn's going to make us.
I don't know. One nice thing, I know some other people with kids who want to learn to sew, and you, like, if you're not ready to let your kids rotary cut, they're squares and triangles. I'm not.
You're just a wise mom.
Right? I like my kids with fingers.
All 10 of them.
Right?
They came that way.
Even the hand crank ones, the kids can crank.
Yeah.
Crank their own pieces through out of your scraps.
The hand crank ones are less expensive, certainly. Then they've got a new system, and it's kind of a cool thing. It's called a cube. And so mix and match the dies in here to complete over 72 different blocks. So that's awesome.
So it comes with 8 dies, cutting pattern book.
There we go. So all of these dies are in that little box. And there's support books these days as well. Fun things. Eleanor Burns, Quilt in the Day. She's a AccuQuilt ambassador, and she's got a fabulous book, and it shows you which blocks. Yeah, there's good support for the AccuQuilt with free patterns on their website and stuff. Yeah, there's Ellie. She's adorable. She's a fun lady. So the Eleanor Burns book. Then there's this one. Go Outside the Box, which is Eleanor's other book. They call them companion books, but you can see all of the cool blocks, traditional blocks. And some of these buggers are really hard to cut. Those would be a nightmare to cut accurately. Oh, this owl here. If you guys take a look on the website, there's some really cool ways to use this die to make all sorts of little animals. Might be on the free pattern inside. But look, the owl, or look, a cow. Then there's some of Sarah Vedler's with the embroidery files. She has some neat ones. And then great big ones. So, people don't always trust what I say because, in their head, I'm just a salesperson. But seriously, when you're going to buy a cutter, it's it's smarter to go big, because then any die, any of these will fit in it. But there was some mini goes and very few dies worked in it. You had to be very careful about what you bought. So we've got like hexies, snowball blocks, as I said, the layer cake 10-inch square, and then this half square triangle. You get to cut 2 of them. The other triangle, equilateral, I think that might be. It's been a long time since I had geometry. Here's the big ones. So length isn't the problem, because the length just will roll through. But see, this is a strip die. It's long. I'm going to just roll back so you can see that. It's quite long, right? But it's not so wide. I mean, for instance, we've got that beautiful strip cutter. That's the 1.5. And given all the patterns out there these days for strip quilts, layer cake, jelly roll, all that stuff, you can do your own pre-cuts out of your own stash. But honest to Pete, this is a bib, you guys. So, custom-made baby bibs for gifts or to sell. So if you need something for your church bazaar, you could make some cute little bibs. And remember, now we've showed you how to work with vinyl. So when you buy a die, you need the protective cover. And so there's different ones for that. Different sizes. We carry those. These are the expendables. If you don't ever damage your die, they'll live forever. And you protect them with the cutting mats. Anyway, so guys, have a good night. Bye, everyone.